As a matter of fact, I'm there right now.
What do you mean you're where right now?
At your house.
That's fucking crazy, man.
Lost Highway, the film that's written and directed by David Lynch, that came out in 1997. So, Lost Highway was actually this month's subscriber poll winner, and I was a tad bit shocked that it won, but at the same time, I wasn't. And I'll say that I was shocked because it went up against, monster films like American Psycho and Requiem for a Dream. It even went up against Christopher Nolan's film Memento, and David Lynch still won. So, I'm convinced that if I put David Lynch in any poll, regardless if it's his most overlooked film, or at least one of his most overlooked films like Lost Highway, he's still going to win. And I was really excited to watch Lost Highway because I'm always really excited to watch any David Lynch film because even if I'm not that huge into one of his films, I can at least know that I'm going to be in for something that's incredibly unique and unlike anything that I'm going to see from any other filmmaker. And after seeing Lost Highway, I think Lost Highway kind of encapsulates my overall feelings for David Lynch as a filmmaker. And to sum it up in a simple way, is that overall, I highly enjoy the experience of watching a David Lynch film more than the merit of the film itself, if that makes any sense. Not that I didn't like this movie. I still enjoyed it quite a bit, but it's really the kind of experience that David Lynch gives you is what I'm always excited about, and it's something that I can always walk away from being thoroughly satisfied from. And particularly what I enjoyed so much from this film, and really most David Lynch films in general, is just how nightmarishly surreal this film is. David Lynch is beyond excellent at capturing the dreamlike state of one's subconscious mind. Even with a film like Mulholland Drive, which, by the way, Mulholland Drive and Lost Highway, they're so similar in so many different ways. Of course, Lost Highway came before Mulholland Drive, and I feel like Lost Highway was kind of Lynch's rough cut of Mulholland Drive, because to me, Mulholland Drive is basically the concept of Lost Highway, except mastered to perfection. But either way, both of those films explore the subconscious mind in such a dark and nightmarish way. And even though I can guarantee you that you're going to walk away from Lost Highway not understanding more than 50% of what you just saw, you can at least count on David Lynch just really being able to absorb you into this damn near hellish and dreamlike state that offers up a nice handful of imagery that is going to stick with you for a while. And I really dug the themes that David Lynch chose to explore in Lost Highway that, a lot like Mulholland Drive, again, it's really hard to talk about Lost Highway without talking about Mulholland Drive because they're so incredibly similar structurally, thematically, and conceptually. Even in terms of the imagery that Lost Highway offers, in terms of the red curtains, it's a lot like Mulholland Drive, but in Lost Highway, the main character of this film is basically someone who is extremely dissatisfied with his ability to be a man in certain ways, whether it's his sexual performance, and also just the anxieties and insecurities that he has with not only himself, but just with the fidelity in regards to his current relationship. And with all these aspects of his character put into mind, he's clearly somebody who is unwilling to face the truth. He is unwilling to face reality for what it actually is. And that's why I really dug the inclusion of the video camera concept in this film, because the main character himself claims that he hates video cameras and he would much rather keep his own memory of an event as he remembered it, because the video camera will project reality for what it actually was, and he would much rather hold on to an event as he remembered it, regardless if it's an illusion or not. And that to me was not only one of the most compelling pieces of dialogue in this film, but one of the more compelling aspects of his character, because I think that's something that we can all relate to. The way that we remember something is deeply held on to who we are as a person, and it's through our experiences and our memories of that experience that essentially shapes who we are. And it basically just means that our memories and our feelings regarding our experiences throughout our life is what defines us as human beings. So the video camera in this film, to me, represents objective reality, and whether or not people want to admit it is something that a lot of people are scared of. But I also really genuinely loved the character of the mystery man in this film. This guy, when he first appears on screen, not in the main character's nightmare, but when his character is first introduced in physical form at a party, there's this phone call scene, and that scene was so beautifully portrayed, in my opinion. That scene was genuinely unsettling and genuinely frightening in a lot of ways. And again, like, not only is it like unsettling and suspenseful, but it just contributes to how surrealistic and nightmarish this film feels. And for quite some time, I've been really thinking about what this mystery man in this film represents, not only thematically, but, where does he really exist in this story? Thematically, I basically came to a very loose conclusion that he essentially represents the main character's evil desires that are stemmed from, again, his insecurities, his anger, and his jealousy, and, everything that makes him feel really weak and angry as a person is manifested within this embodiment of evil, I guess, if you will. But at the same time, I think that he is also more than just a product of the main character's subconscious mind. There are certain aspects of the story that really makes it seem like this perhaps is an actual entity that's manifesting itself in reality. So yeah, I mean, it's a loose interpretation, and honestly, anybody's interpretation of this film, I feel like, is a loose interpretation. Because this film is quite abstract, and it seems like once you think that you have, a strong interpretation of this film, there are certain events that you call back to in this film that basically just tear a huge hole in your interpretation. And to be honest, to me, that was one of the things that I just find it really tough to get behind. Because I feel like with a film like Mulholland Drive, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and I feel like eventually all the pieces do fit together cohesively. But with a film like Lost Highway, it's a little bit frustrating because when you're putting together a giant puzzle, you eventually expect for all the pieces to connect and fit. But with Lost Highway, I feel like no matter how many times you try to connect the pieces, there's going to be a few that just won't fit, or they're just missing. And I mean, anybody would be frustrated and borderline upset to put so much time and effort into putting a puzzle together, only to find out in the end that like 5 or 6 pieces are either missing from the puzzle altogether or just are not connecting. And I understand that Lost Highway is avant-garde cinema. I understand that it's David Lynch attempting abstraction to a different kind of degree. But I feel like at the same time, David Lynch has kind of mastered this level of abstraction in films like Eraserhead and Mulholland Drive, where you at the very least have a very strong and cohesive storyline where all the dots connect, and you're not stuck in this kind of endless loop that makes you feel like David Lynch is giving you the runaround. And obviously, I highly admire David Lynch as an artist and as a filmmaker for a lot of different reasons, one of them being the fact that he just doesn't give a fuck. If he wants to put random Rammstein in his film for like 10 seconds, he's gonna do it. If he wants to, have like rough cut edited imagery in his film, he's gonna do it. David Lynch is basically unchained. He has no boundaries when it comes to his filmmaking. And, if he feels like he wants to do something, he's gonna do it. But with that comes a high level of risk of a handful of things not necessarily working for the audience. And for me, there were a lot of song choices in this film. Yes, one of them was a Rammstein song choice. And just like other incorporations of music in this film that always has me wondering, like, is this corny and dumb, or is this, unique and brilliant? And personally, that's kind of a reoccurring issue that I've had with Lynch films, is that there are moments in his films where I'm like, this is coming off like so corny and dumb, but at the same time, it's like, it's different and it's unique and it's creative. And the only two films that I've seen from him where I didn't feel that in some way was Mulholland Drive and Eraserhead. But I definitely felt it in Lost Highway. I definitely felt it in Wild at Heart, and very few times I felt it in Inland Empire. But with Lost Highway, especially with what happens in the second half of this film, it's like David Lynch just throws so much at the wall, and I feel like there's a nice handful of it that just didn't personally work for me. And before going into this film, know that there is tons of sexuality in this film. A lot more than I expected. And I gotta give it to Patricia Arquette. She goes all the way with this role, and she just shows everything, not in just one scene, but in multiple different scenes. And, just huge credit to her as an actress for being this dedicated to an art piece. But when it comes to the sexuality, it was one of those things where I felt like some of it totally worked for the film, and I understand its necessity. And there's some of them where I'm like, I don't know if we really needed to see a whole scene of that. And the second half of this film is something that reminded me a lot of Mulholland Drive as well. And it's because it kind of goes back to that character theme of escapism and, doing everything they can to avoid reality by crafting this fantasy world. And it's also a lot like Mulholland Drive in the sense that despite the fact that this character has crafted a whole, fake reality, real reality is so severe, and their inner feelings of, guilt and regret and everything else that's going on within them is much too strong for this fake reality to really maintain itself. And eventually reality just penetrates that barrier of fantasy that they've created. But one of the things about this film that kind of frustrated me a bit was the fact that you have certain characters in this film, one being the set of detectives and the other one being the prison guards, and these characters to me are there to serve as a beacon of objective reality, kind of as a reference for the audience to understand, okay, what these characters are perceiving is what's actually happening. And even though I admire David Lynch's attempt to give the audience, some level of certainty, I feel like it just kind of convolutes it a bit more. And I feel like the film probably would have been better off at having everything be a product of this kind of, surrealist subconscious mind. But it's quite possible that I'm perceiving David Lynch's vision incorrectly. I'm sure everybody in the comment section is going to have their own interpretations of this film, and I would really love to hear it. But one last thing I have to mention about this film is Robert Loge's character. I thought his character was hilarious, and he embodied this character so incredibly well. It reminded me a lot of Dennis Hopper's character in Blue Velvet, Frank Booth. He's just like so unhinged. There's this one scene involving like a car accident, and he just goes all the way with that performance, and I thought it was quite hilarious. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed my experience watching Lost Highway. I think David Lynch is a master of surrealism. He really knows how to absorb an audience into that nightmarish atmosphere. And even though at times what he throws at me doesn't necessarily work for me, I think it's just really cool that we have somebody like this out there that is making just artistically ambitious films. So I'm going to give David Lynch's Lost Highway a solid 7 out of 10. Yeah, I'm really glad that I watched this film. Huge thanks to everybody that voted for it. I had a blast watching it and talking about it. And as I mentioned earlier, let me hear what you think about this film. What did you interpret from this film? I am dying to hear everyone's thoughts, so please let it be known in the comments section. If you really enjoy what I had to say about Lost Highway, please don't forget to give this video a like and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.